Hi, I'm Marcos, and welcome to Coming to the Faith podcast. In this episode, I have a very distinguished and unique pleasure in interviewing a close friend and someone who I keep in touch with monthly, as you'll hear in the interview. Emilio Matos, a leader, pastor, husband, and father. Pray that you are blessed by this episode. Emilio, long awaited,
Yes, sir.
highly anticipated. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. We've been trying to coordinate. We've been trying to align our schedules best as possible, just so that this can happen. Um, Whoever's listening or watching this, they may get a couple thoughts or opinions. Definitely, nostalgia. It's got to be running back to somebody. A lot of people don't know this, but you and I, we have a history. We know each other for some time. We at least talk once a month. We keep in touch with one another. But I'm really excited and very, very happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here. I'm very happy to be here. No, this is great, man. I mean, this I was looking forward to because, we have conversations all the time. So this is going to be, something so easy for us to do. I think the producer's going to have an issue with us probably telling us to cut off the time.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to be good, man.
Yeah,
How you doing?
Oh, I'm all right, man. I'm all right. I've had a healthy breakfast.
What'd you have?
I had eggs. Just eggs.
Pero con los tres golpes, ¿o no?
No. Oh,
No.
click the SAP.
No mango?
No. Just eggs today. But I definitely had my coffee. So shout out to Bustelo. But yeah, man. How about yourself?
Good. Bustelo, which by the way, I came to recently find out is Ethiopian coffee beans.
Well, the beans, the beans. It's the Arabica blend, and
yeah, this is gonna cause quite a stir with the Puerto Rican community.
Well, I know. Well, yeah, but you know what? We can build a bridge and cross it. So, but to the point at hand, welcome.
Thank you.
Happy to have you. I know who you are. At least I like to believe I know who you are. But I'd like for you to share. They're eavesdropping. But I'd like for you to share. Who is Emilio? Go.
Man, who is Emilio? Emilio is turning 40 this year, dude. And I've learned that I need to celebrate that more, because there's so many people when they speak about aging, it always comes off as something negative, especially when you speak to, certain people. They say, hey, eso no se cuenta. You don't talk about that. You don't ask that.
Mm-hmm.
But man, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to reach your birthday every year. I've got friends that have passed away over the past 40 years. You know what I'm saying? And to be able to reach that age is amazing. But I'm 39. I'll be turning 40 now in August. I'm a father of 3. I'm a husband of 17 years almost now in May, which is to me insane. And it's insane, I think, because of how quickly it feels like it went by. And I think that's attributed a lot to how good of a relationship I have with my wife, Joyce Matos, by the way, which you're probably watching now. I love you, Joyce. But it's been a heck of a ride. And that's how I really identify myself. I identify myself as a husband, as a father, but more than anything as a servant, man. I feel like I was born to serve, something that I have always believed about myself. And, and I don't want to sound too preachy or too ministry like or too pastoral like,
Be yourself, man.
Because I am a youth pastor. I've been pastoring a group of kids in South Brunswick, New Jersey now for just about 6 years. I was an associate pastor at another church for 7 years before that. And so, my heart has always been to serve, no matter where it is, no matter what capacity, even, where I am now. There's certain people that look at the pastorate, as a level, where, they don't do certain things anymore. But, I don't agree with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with me, using a mop, using a vacuum cleaner. You know what I'm saying? I've always been one of those people that believes something that I read once that that I do agree with is that if you're too good for a mop, you're too good for a microphone, you know?
Mm.
And I was born to serve, and it's something that I live for. It's something that I try to teach people all the time, you know, because in this capacity, so to speak, when you are training people, when you are discipling people, there's certain people that deal with pride, and there's certain people that deal with, you know, loving the positions. And when they get called to a certain position, now they feel differently, and all of a sudden they feel like they can't do certain things anymore because I'm up here now. And so one of the things that I try to teach is that. Why? Because it's who I am, and I try to implement that. Something that I always mention to people is Jesus's last thing before being given to the soldiers was he washed people's feet, you
He
know?
watched his disciples.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and these feet were dirty feet, you know, guys walking around in sandals all day, you
Mhm.
know, sweaty sandals and sweaty feet and stinky feet. And it's like, you know what? Do this. You know, it's one of the things that he asked us to do, you know, the washing of the feet. And it's just unbelievable to me how the King of Kings could do that, you know? So that's who I am. Emilio is a servant. Emilio is a youth pastor. Emilio is a husband. Emilio is a father. Emilio has a very big family that I love so much that, of course, you know all of them.
Oh, your family's actually funny enough. A little on topic, off topic.
Yeah.
You posted a picture this weekend that
Yeah.
I was floored. For two reasons.
Yeah.
A, yours truly has not gone bald.
Mm.
You still have the same luxurious mane you did then. Not gonna lie, there was some inner healing that took place because I did feel offended. I was like, you know what, Lord, don't ask for a whole lot, but you still had that same, and you were holding Deborah.
Yeah.
Fast forward, Deborah, adult, I was just like,
Yeah.
I was beside myself because I was like, how? Where did it happen?
Dude.
But this is where my mind really got caught up because that picture of you holding the den, Deborah,
Mm-hmm.
between you and I, yeah, we may have fluctuated in LBs, but your face doesn't change. And my vision's not all that great. I can promise you, though, we could be in an airport and I can spot you because you don't change. There are certain people from my youth that their physique, their physical bodies clearly change, but face-wise, I can pick them out in a lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And when you shared that with me, I started doing the whole reminiscing. I was like, man, how long has it been since I've known this kid? You know what I mean? Like how the story intrinsically and like the timeline of when we got connected to this very moment, it's like there's decades there. And it's not even that, again, you and I, we speak once a month, but it's not like, you know, you're not like a bestie, but you're my brother and you're someone that I make it a point. Like I purpose myself, hey, I gotta speak to him and let him know, hey, and it doesn't have to be a long conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I get the same joy for talking to you for 15 minutes the same way if we talk for 50 minutes, which we've done a couple times.
Yeah.
And it's not even about the time itself, but it's about the purposeful, like, hey, I'm separating myself, disconnecting from everything and everyone else, because I'm showing you, hey, I want to hear your heart. I want to hear how you're doing. So everything you're saying, I can confirm because obviously we speak and I'm watching it. But greater picture, hindsight, we have a history. So I've seen the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there's stories that I'm not aware of, but that's for you to unpack and, extrapolate. But so you said who you are. Now, I think there's a little more under that.
Mm-hmm.
But in your current capacity that you weren't born into, because I know this about you,
Right.
give me your background. I want to know, you're the pastor today, you're the youth pastor today, you've been under leadership, you're involved in ministry, but all roads lead to one, which is him, the one.
Mm-hmm.
But before you could come to that realization, what was that like? Because unlike myself, I was quite literally born into this. I know that that's not the case from your perspective.
Mhm.
What was that like?
Wow. So yeah, so my cousin Deborah got married this past Saturday, and
Oh, and another thing, by the way, because my wife said it, and I'm just going to reiterate it. Is there an ugly person in your family? Because Johanna looked at the picture. She saw you. She's like, "Oh my god, he's such a cutie." And then she looked at the then and now, and she's like, "Is there an ugly person in their family?" I was like, I don't know. Just God looked upon that gene and was like favor and beauty. So I don't know, sweetie. I told her, I was like, I don't know. Maybe we need to just pray harder. I don't know. But yeah, so
I'm
back
pre-
to your story.
I'm pretty sure I have a cousin or something that lives in the campo over there in San Pedro Macorís somewhere. No, but so yeah, so Deborah's turning 25, man, in February, which is insane. That picture that I posted of me holding her was actually, I don't think she was a year old yet. But going to your point of me knowing you, it's gonna be 30 years that you and I have known each other, because I actually got to our church where we grew up, where we met each other in 1995. And to think that now it's 2025, it's been 30 years, man. It's been 30 years since I got there. And I remember us, playing in the kids group together. You were a multi-talented musician. I remember you having a bass with a pick, and playing the bass and playing congas, and I was there with my clarinet. I don't know if you remember
I
that.
remember the clarinet, I remember the guira, I remember the conga.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, hey, you're up, slugger. Like, it's like they plugged you in wherever the need was.
Yeah.
That's where you were gonna serve.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, oh, the Lord's leading me. Here's a guira.
Oh man, but so yeah, so I met you in 95. I started going to church in 95. And I got to be honest, my walk in the Lord was a little different than the people that I've spoken to, than a lot of the people I've spoken to, because I feel like I fell in love with Jesus at that age,
1995.
in 1995.
Okay, but before 1995, though, you're a child at this point.
Yeah, of course. I was 10 years old.
But what leads you? Like, how do you get there?
Okay.
I don't quite want to know how you came to the faith just yet, although
Okay.
that's a part of it.
Right.
But what was Emilio like leading up to that moment? What was that like?
So as far as I've been told, I was a good kid.
Yeah, as best as you can recall.
My family was always very, very tight knit. We have a big family. My
Yeah.
grandfather has 11 siblings. My grandmother has 11 siblings.
No TV.
Yeah. And in those countries, that I don't think it existed back in the day. I think the only show that they used to watch was like, the Lone Ranger or something like that in black and white or something. And that was on the radio.
Yeah. Hey, sweetie, it's Tuesday.
Yeah. But I mean, aside from that, I was raised with a stepfather who had 11 siblings. So
Good Lord.
yeah, it was insane. It was
That
insane.
old country living.
My goodness. So my our Christmas parties were wild. It was just, we used to have a rental hall, and everybody used to come.
You still do.
Yeah. And aside from that, my family's always been, and I know you know this because you came to eat at Papa's house so many times, but they're very welcoming. They're very welcoming. We have people that are part of our family that are not blood, but are brothers, but are cousins, but are tias, mi tia tal cosa, mi tío, whatever, and they're not even family, but they've always been very welcoming, and people have always loved that about my family. But it's interesting, the way that my family got to church is a pretty wild story, and it was something that it was a tragic story, actually, and it was because um, I have an uncle whose son was killed, and that is what got them to go to church. That experience is what got them to go to church, and then from there we started going to church too a little bit afterwards. And so it was, it was in the midst of tragedy that we came to the ways of the Lord. And it's amazing how things like that happen. Um, as a 10-year-old, obviously you don't really have much of a choice but to do whatever your parents ask you to do. But me personally, I can honestly tell you that there was something always different, and I think it has a lot to do with the way my mother raised me. My father was a hard worker always. He always was very involved in stuff, but in terms of work. But my grandfather, Papa, which very loving man, very loving man. He's the reason I love baseball. which by the way, I'm going to segue into something that I actually brought for you because, I come bearing gifts for you, Marcos.
Oh, thank you.
But before that, my mom and my grandfather are very much alike in many different areas. They're very emotional people. When my dad couldn't really make it to my baseball games, Papa was there. When he couldn't make it to my football games, Papa was there. And so there was something about the way they were. And I think that's where I get the servant side of me from. My grandfather does not care if he has to give you the shirt off his back. He doesn't care if you come to his house, you are gonna eat and you are not leaving there
Until you do.
hasta que tú coma,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
And if you eat it, you finish your plate, quiere más, mira, he doesn't even ask you, mira, here, let me put some more rice in it. It's like, hey, hold on a second, and you better eat that plate.
Yes.
He's going to make sure that you're well fed, and I think that's where that comes from for me. And my mother is the exact same way. To this day, no one comes to our church, and I think you can vouch for this because you recently visited my church not long ago. No one comes to my church as a visitor, and leaves without having been fed, because that's just the way she is, And so I think that's where I get it from too. And it's something that I used to, even at the tender age of 8, 9, 10 years old, I used to be that way. So I think coming into the things of the Lord, I was able to find it so, relational or relative to who I was. It was so easy to come into Christ, because I felt like I was at home, with when I learned about Jesus, I felt like I was at home. And so, before coming to Christ, my family was always tight knit. We were always together. We were always doing things, but it was in the midst of tragedy that we did come to the ways of the Lord.
Okay. And I'm not gonna ask you to go too much into the tragedy, but so you come to church
Mm-hmm.
because for me, it's not a judgment against anybody, please, but for me,
I think I know where you're going already. Go
there's a
ahead.
difference between going to church
Yeah, yeah,
and then becoming a disciple of Jesus.
100%.
So, Emilio, you arrive,
Mm-hmm.
your family, because of this tragedy, because of the experience.
Yeah.
You arrive at the church. At what point during that time in your maturation did it go from I'm visiting a building once or twice a week or however you frequented
Mm-hmm.
to wait, there's someone I have to put my faith in? Coming to Jesus. Expand a little bit on that. What was that like between all right, I'm at a church to now I'm a disciple of Jesus?
Okay. So I can honestly tell you, that at the tender age of 10, I knew right away that my lifestyle had to be a certain way. Again, when you're 9, 10 years old, it's not like you're doing that much bad stuff unless you're raised in a bad situation. You're not doing things. You're 10 years old, especially back in the 90s, we were playing with cars. We didn't have iPads back then. You couldn't have Netflix, if you wanted to refer to a certain specific episode or something, you couldn't go back. If you missed that episode of Rugrats, you missed the episode, and
VHS.
there was nothing you could do.
VHS.
Yeah,
These kids got it good.
right. So, and then in my household, we didn't have cable. We had the antennas, and you
Just you?
but so what was the question you asked me? I kind
So
of
basically, so you saying at 10 years old is when you knew or you make a connection.
yes.
But what
Yeah. So let me get to that. Yeah. So I remember distinctly at 10 years old being a person of prayer. I would pray by myself, not because my parents told me to do it. I remember clearly me at that age praying on my own. I remember clearly at that age, I still have my Bible. I was actually going to bring it and I forgot to bring it. I still have my Bible that my mom got me back in my first bilingual Bible, and it has the date May 12th, 1997. I still have that Bible, and man, I remember getting that bilingual Bible or asking my mother for it because if you recall the church we used to go to on the second floor in the balcony, there used to be a little table where the translator
Correct.
would be. And I remember seeing that. I'm like, man, I'm going to do that someday. I want to do that. And I told my mom, I need a bilingual Bible, and she got it for me. And I'm telling you, my brother, ever since that age, man, I knew for sure. I started cultivating my relationship with Christ. I would pray on my own. There were times that I would sing prayers to him, which it wasn't something that people taught me to do. It was something that just came to me, man. I remember watching videos of me worshiping at 10, 11 years old, It was something that I knew I wanted to do, and it was something that was reflected even in my in school. In school, people knew Emilio was the kid that didn't curse, people knew that Emilio was the kid that wouldn't go to the parties, that wouldn't do the things, even at that age. I never went to any of the school dances. I never did any of those things because I knew that my lifestyle had to be different. Like there was a standard, and I can honestly tell you now, I will tell you this much though. Upon reaching high school, certain things changed a little bit for me.
Oh, bro, adolescence kick in.
Right.
Puberty does a number on us all. So
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
So obviously certain things changed, certain opinions changed, certain feelings changed, certain relationships changed. So there was a lot of stuff that happened to me that nothing bad. I mean, good things, but
yeah, lucky.
yeah. But things like puberty and things like, kind of got a hold of me a little bit, you know what I'm saying? And so my relationship with God was different. It wasn't as like it was when I was younger.
I get that.
Um, but then there did come a point when I was 19 years old, and again, there was an event in my life that happened that actually, now this past December, it was 20 years ago, which is to me, it's insane how fast time flies. And of course, you know what
Yeah, yeah.
event this is. Um, and I remember December 21st, 2004 is when it happened. And that to me was like was something that made me reconsider a lot of things. It changed me, and I can go into the semantics, which I kind of do want to go into it a little bit, just
It's your
because,
story, man.
yeah,
I'm going out for the
and I'm
ride.
okay with it. I'm
Yeah.
okay with going into it, but there were certain people in my life that took advantage of that situation to kind of steer me in a different direction. And I do, however, believe that despite the fact that I didn't really go um, in a direction that was particularly a great one, I do consider that period of my life marked me becoming a disciple of Jesus. It was at 19 years old that all of a sudden I went to a retreat, and I feel like I encountered Jesus for the first time ever in a different way, to the point where I got baptized in the Holy Spirit. I felt something so different. I feel like my eyes were opened almost to the point of, the disciples walked with Jesus 3 years and a half.
Mhm.
And the first thing they did when he got arrested was run. They had,
Well, no, Peter was giving
well,
people, piercings.
of course, but he was always a very emotional dude like that. You know what I'm saying? In the same chapter, Jesus calls him, Jesus says to him, you were led by the Spirit. That wasn't revealed to you. Carne ni sangre fue el
Yeah.
Espíritu Santo. But in
Yeah.
that same chapter, a few verses later, apártate de mí, Satanás, because
Same one. He said, "Oh, do you love me?"
Right.
Yes. Feed my sheep.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
So it's like you just called me Satan. You just
Yeah,
called
exactly.
me the father of perdition. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
Here?
Peter was always overly emotional. No, Jesus, you're not gonna wash my feet. It's like, dude, I have to do this. All right, then bathe me. So he was always crazy like that. But everybody ran except for John, and it wasn't until he came back. These dudes were ready to go back to their old jobs, and as a matter of fact, a few of them did go back to their old jobs. And it wasn't till Jesus presented himself to them, and the Bible says that he blew into them. And all of a sudden, it's like they received the Spirit at that moment. And the way I see that is that that's like a moment of like revelation. It's like, wow, now everything that Jesus did in these past 3 years, I saw him raise the dead. I saw him do miracles. I saw demons submit to him. I saw him multiply food. I saw him do all these amazing
Saw
things.
him walk on water.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's stuff that they just couldn't explain themselves. I mean, would you really like abandon somebody that did all those things? They did. They did abandon him. But it wasn't till the Spirit was in them that they were like, okay, I think I understand now what's going on here. And of course, he stayed with them for like 40 days. It kind of, refreshed them a little bit during that time.
500 people see him go up.
But then now they're willing to die for him,
And they all did.
And they all did, right? So that moment for me happened when I was 19 years old. After the accident that I had when I was a young pup.
Near-death experiences will do that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
And it's not because you're sitting in front of me, but I remember that day like it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
because I was at my youth leader's house and we got the phone call.
We were on your way to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll never forget that day. And I saw what the car looked like after the fact.
My
And I
man.
remember, and this wasn't even to say that I was fully committed in walking with the Lord. I'll
Hmm.
be the first to tell you, I said in episode 1, a wretched man that I am. Like but I looked at that Toyota Celica.
Yeah,
Hi, Moses. I looked at that Toyota Celica. I'm like, how anybody survived
dude.
this accident? It's by the sheer mercy and power of God,
Hmm.
because that car looked like a crushed Pepsi can.
Hmm.
I said, there's no way. And there was 4 human beings in that vehicle.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, even now I'm talking to you and I'm reliving it because, like I said, that memory, it was burned because it was quite literally, it was a holiday party, funny enough, specifically because it happened on the 21st. It was a holiday party because they were recruiting leaders to come alongside the
Hmm.
leadership that was there.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, I don't want to say grooming, but it definitely had that feel, that kind of a meeting like, hey, we want to do something, we want to expand on this. And we get that phone call. And I remember going to the hospital that same night, and everything you're saying, I'm reliving as, so yeah, I can confirm.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like that was that Jonah moment for me where he got swallowed up by a big fish. You know
Spit
what I'm
out.
saying? I wasn't. I don't want to say that I was a bad kid because I know that I wasn't. And again, I guarded myself even throughout high school, and I tell you, and this is something that I'm not the type of person to boast about anything, especially now that I'm a father and not just a father to my young daughters, which by the way, I love you, Penny. I love you, Mia. I love you, Ellie. I have a 11, a 9, and a 5-year-old. Um, but I'm a father of a lot of these young kids, that see me as a spiritual guide to them. I'm not one to boast, but my senior year of high school, I was actually voted homecoming king of the high school, and I say this because I use this as an example to people because of the fact that I wasn't the kid who cursed. I wasn't the kid who would do drugs. Never touched them. I never touched cigarettes. I never touched alcohol. I wasn't the kid who would, go around had a lot of different girlfriends. Um, and despite that, I was still able to be popular in the sense that I had a lot of friends. Emilio was the kid that you saw him hanging out with the football players because I used to play football, but then you saw him hanging out with the soccer players because I spoke fluent Spanish and they were
Predominantly Spanish.
exactly. And then at the same time I had some goth friends that to this day are still my boys on Facebook. And I had some gay friends and I had some uh, you know Chinese friends and the nerdy friends. And you would see me. I actually have. I remember the day of my graduation. I took a picture with each one of those groups. Because that's just who I was, man. I used to be friends with literally everybody in the school, and so it is possible to be popular. To be considered a homecoming king without having to do the things that you're pressured to do when you're in high school. I think it's a testimony letting people know you don't have to be a follower in order to be accepted. You could be a leader. You could be someone that people look up to because you're consistent in the way that you live in a positive way. However, there were certain things about me um, that weren't that weren't good. On the outside, I was showing one thing, but there were certain things about me on the inside that weren't necessarily affecting me, but could have affected me in the long run. And yes, there were a couple of situations that did affect me during that time, but I know that I was headed in a really bad direction. And I really do praise the Lord that I was able to shift that. I'm not saying I'm not one of those people that says that the Lord causes certain things. He does. I don't want to say that he doesn't necessarily do that. And I don't want to say that the reason that that accident happened was for my change, but at least for me personally, I do believe that what happened to me that day did spark something, did make me say, you know what, I need to change something about myself that I just don't feel is right. And so from that moment on, I let myself be led more by the Spirit of God. I started to look at the Word of God as a guide more than just a book that I used to love to read, by the way. I mean, I had read the entire Bible by the time I was 10 years old. You know what I'm saying? And it's something that to this day, I still enjoy doing. Something that I started doing with my youth this year is reading the Bible chronologically. I don't know if you've seen my
Yeah,
post,
yeah,
but
I've seen it.
yeah, so every day we're reading the Bible, and these kids are so excited, man, and they post on their things, the things that they're reading, and so it's just, it's something that I've always enjoyed doing anyway. But all of a sudden, my life changed in such an amazing way, and I'm telling you that there was just a moment where I felt the power of God more than ever before, and I knew at that point this is what I was born to do. So even at 19, I remember taking a full time job in ministry because I knew that I wanted to do that. Did I get paid well? Absolutely not. I mean, I think my first couple months I was getting paid like $50 a week, man. And for 2005, that's nothing. I couldn't even pay my gas. Um, but I was willing to do it, man. And I changed everything about myself, man. I changed everything. Now, at the same time, again, I don't want to say that a lot of the stuff that I did, a lot of the changes that I made were really my idea. Now that I work with kids that are 18, 19, 20 years old, I can understand how young I was, how immature I was. There's a lot of stuff that today I'm protecting my kids from. When I hear things of people who want to steer these kids in a direction, not to benefit the kid, but to benefit other people, when I hear about these things and I tell them, hey, listen, something is wrong here. When I hear my daughters tell me, hey, Papa, certain people or, somebody gave me an idea and then I find out what's going on. And I'm like, no, you got to be careful. And so there are certain things that happened to me during that time that, to this day, until recently, they used to affect me a lot. They affected me for a long time. A lot of the decisions that I made because I ended up in a ministry that ultimately I found out was, they I believe they started with good intentions, but it turned into something just completely different. And all of a sudden, I realized that I was going through a lot of manipulation. I was going through, it's the type of place where they wouldn't necessarily tell you exactly what to do, but they would steer you in that direction. It's like, listen, I'm not saying that, God doesn't want you to do this, but, you got to be, I think maybe, so they would kind of steer you in that direction. And then it ultimately turned into this like almost like a Stockholm syndrome type thing where even though you were being abused emotionally, you were being abused psychologically, you still love them because you saw God moving in powerful ways. So it's like, man, I mean, God has to be involved in this. If I see all these beautiful things happening, God has to be involved. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I was willing to sacrifice so many things. It's something that I can't say I regret because regret is more like, I made a decision to do something and now I wish I wouldn't have. I was a young kid, man. I feel like I was led in a way that I I wouldn't allow my children to go through that. And that's something that, I can very freely say my parents dropped the ball there because it's something that we've discussed and they are aware. They know they have regrets as to how I was treated. They have regrets as to the decisions that were made for me. Um, but I lost a lot of relationships, man. And I think when it comes to what hurts the most to this day is the relationships that I lost. Because I had beautiful relationships, man. I had beautiful relationships, people that I considered brothers, like you, for example, our relationship back then was very different. It was something, I mean, I used to sleep over your house, dude. You know what
Oh
I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
I had relationships with other people. You mentioned Mo, right? Mo was my brother. He wasn't even my best friend. I used to sleep over his house. He would sleep over mine. Mo was the type of dude, bro. Mo would give you his bed. I know you're sleeping here. I'm sleeping on the floor. And that's something that I mean, to this day, it still breaks me, man. It still breaks me because when you're 40, it's hard finding friends, dude. When you're 40, it's really difficult um to speak to somebody in an open way that you don't really have to reserve anything. Like when you speak to people at this age, and you become friends with people, because I do have very good friends today, but I don't tell them everything. You know what I mean? Uh,
It's the I think, it's the relational equity, having that with I don't think that that's reserved for everybody.
right.
And there's even biblical examples of that where Jesus himself would
Hmm.
recuse himself from either his 12
Hmm.
or separate himself with a couple of the 12.
Right.
I think about the mountain of transfiguration.
A
He didn't
hundred
have
percent.
them all 12 up there.
100%.
Whenever he would tell, hey, I'm going to go take the boat on the other side, I'll meet you there. So it's okay to have some separation. And it's okay that even within a group of people, for you to be like, hey, I don't mind sharing. I don't mind doing life with you and what have you. But there's something to be said and having specific relationships with people who you trust,
Hmm.
who you can have a sense of accountability with,
Yeah.
that you can be yourself, transparent. And not only is it just give, but you also like I like I like to think I have that with you, like I alluded to earlier, where I call, check in once a month,
Hmm.
and we're not yeah, we'll talk baseball, whatever, but we're sharing life stuff.
Yeah.
We're sharing this life, of being a follower of Christ, of picking up, choosing to pick up our crosses daily
Right.
and follow Him. So I hear your heart in it, and I agree with everything you're saying, because in my ignorance, see, we were polar opposites in that I grew up in the church, and I was still I battling this,
La chuleta.
yeah, this, and so I hear what you're saying. I agree with you. So, and good on your parents, respectfully, because a lot of parents, given the culture, aren't willing to do that. Where it's like,
Right.
hey, I shortchanged you, or
Hmm.
I had no idea this was going on, or I'm sorry that you don't have that, especially in our culture. We don't get that often. Where a parent knowing that, hey, I hear you here, goes, my bad.
Right.
So I can appreciate that you have that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the fact that you're willing to defend that now, you being a man of almost 40
Hmm.
with your own children. Um, I have a lot of respect for that, because a lot of people, they don't know how to do that. To draw the line of like, here's the word of God. This is how we're gonna live. But I, as your father, I have a responsibility first to you guys. The ministry will be there,
100%.
but my identity is not rooted in my role or title as pastor.
Hmm.
This is my identity as a man, husband, and
Yeah.
father in the Lord.
Right.
So I get that.
That's something that I actually tell people all the time. Just because I'm a pastor now, it's not what identifies me. I can stop being a pastor today, and I'm still going to be saved, because it's not who I am. I am, it's what I am now during this season of my life, but it doesn't determine who I am, especially in Christ, because ultimately what we do for the Lord, especially us that are involved in ministry, that we do things, to serve other people. Um, Even those things don't identify us really. What identifies us more is what happens behind the scenes. Your prayer life. Between you and the Lord. Your fasting life, your reading of the scriptures, the way you see things, looking at people through the eyes of Christ, which is something that one of the things that has helped me as a man, and I can tell you this very bluntly, very honestly, as a man, you know, men were not we're not designed to just be with one woman. We have in our desire the desire to be with a lot of women. That's just who we are. But something that has helped me is looking at women through the eyes of Christ as daughters. You know what I'm saying? Especially as a pastor, when you look at a woman as a daughter, when you look at her as someone who has a need, who has a true need, man, everything changes. Your whole perspective on people changes, And all of a sudden, not just looking at women, looking at men that way too. Looking at them as people who need Christ, who need the Lord, who need a personal relationship with God. My goodness. When you start looking at people that way, it changes your whole perspective, because before being a pastor, and I can say this, anyone who doesn't serve people to that capacity of being a pastor or being a servant in a church, you might have certain opinions about people, we're a far cry from what the Samaritan was, right? Where, you have opinions and, you kind of steer clear of certain people and you stay away from people and you see people have an opinion on somebody and they're like, yeah, I'm not going to talk to that person. But as a pastor, my job is to help you to grow, and so it doesn't matter who you are or what you've done. I can't treat you that way. I need to be able to help you grow. And so there are people that are in the church that are struggling a lot. And they come and they go and they come and they go and they show up on Sunday because to them it's the right thing to do, but then all of a sudden they'll leave for 3 months or they'll leave for a year. But when they come back, what did the prodigal son's dad do? He received them
Embrace
with,
them. Yeah.
yeah, he embraced them. And you know what I've seen? I've seen that having that attitude towards people, consistently, it doesn't happen always because everyone's different, but I have seen people that maybe were gone for a year or maybe went to church just because they knew it was the right thing to do. But having that consistent attitude towards them, all of a sudden one day made them say, you know what, man, I think I really need Jesus for real, for real. And I've seen people that were not really serving, not really doing anything, all of a sudden on fire for Jesus. Why? Because they saw Jesus in their pastor. They saw in the way I treated them, in the way I loved them, in the way I was able to help them and lead them to their own independent relationship with God. Because that's another thing that I try to be careful with too. I don't want people to depend on me as a pastor. Oh, pastor, I need you to pray for me. Well, why don't you pray? Why don't you have the capacity to do that too? I understand maybe you think my prayer is going to reach God because I'm a pastor, but no, man, your faith is what's going to help you, and when you help people to get to that level, everything changes, man. And so I've been able to see God's glory in these prodigal sons that have returned. And all of a sudden you see them, hey, pastor, man, I brought somebody new to church today. It's like, wow, so now you're seeing the changes. You're seeing what God is doing in these people. And that's what's maintained me, that as a pastor, it's what's helped me knowing. And I think it's something freeing too, knowing that the dependence doesn't have to be on me. The dependence has to be on God. That's where I need to guide these people. They need to understand that I'm not always going to be there every day, and to the point where, which is something that we were talking about. I think we were talking about before recording. Um, you had mentioned to me, you had asked me something about, what it's like to be called different things. Cause I told you I get called all sorts of things, I get called Emilio, I get called pastor, I get called dad sometimes because I'm a youth pastor. You asked me what it was like. And, I mentioned to you that it's a little scary sometimes because, when you are helping and you're discipling these youth and, you see their failures, you see their victories and you're a part of everything. And especially like, me and my wife, we're in full-time ministry now. And even before we were full-time ministry, we always tried our best to be a part, even of the secular things, of the regular things, not just church stuff. So we've been to every year we go to graduations. I've got kids in my church that their parents are in other countries because I have a very big, immigrant community in my church. I have kids that, and I think this is worse, where they have their father at home, but their father is not involved at all. And in some cases, it's because dad is very busy or mom is very busy working, and that's fine. But I personally know parents that don't want to be involved, that don't care, that don't go to the parent teacher conferences. So, guess what I do? I'm at the parent teacher conferences, and I've walked through New Brunswick High School, and I've walked through North Brunswick High School, and I've walked through Franklin High School. And what I do, I take my oil with me and I pray over I anoint the walls and I pray over the schools as I'm walking. I'm anointing the hallways and I'm praying and I'm asking God and I'm seeking the Lord there and meeting the teachers and meeting the other students. And all of a sudden I get students from these high schools. It's come to the point, man. I mean, you went to one of my services. I mean, we're almost at 300 kids right now, man.
Let me be the first to say this. I'm not the guy that's easily moved by numbers. I'm not the guy that, because people are falling out, clearly that's the Lord. Um but what impacted me about your community was a not so much the numbers, but the fact that it was a Thursday service
Yeah.
and wall to wall. There was seating was like at a premium because there wasn't many seats. There weren't many seats available.
Hmm.
Um I'm watching that, and I'm not saying this because you're sitting in front of me, but where I believe you win, and Pastor Bernie, who I was with that day, we agreed is where you win is what you started with, in that the role of pastor, or let's just put it in more biblical text or term, the role of a shepherd. You shepherd your flock well.
Mhm.
Your flock know who you are. Your flock know how to reach you. Your flock know your voice.
Mhm.
The love of Jesus that from your mouth you admitted started early on in your life is evident in how you carry yourself now at almost 40
Mhm.
as a shepherd. It's evident in that. It's something that I believe, like you said, passed down from your family in servanthood,
Right.
but I believe that that's something that the Father put in your heart because we see things like this, but his vantage point is far greater. His
Absolutely.
perspective is greater. He sees the full picture. So it's like, hey, this unfortunate episode with the passing, I'm gonna get this family here.
Mhm.
Okay, fast forward 19. This unfortunate episode, I'm gonna use this to mark him.
Right.
Bible tells us that he uses all things for his good. So even the most dire and worst of situations, we know that he has this ability to say, yeah, that was horrible.
Mhm.
That was dark. That was unfortunate. But I'm going to pull something. I'm going to make beauty from ashes. And you're living that.
Mhm.
And I have an appreciation for that because I feel like, A, I have access to you. And B, I'm watching it unfold
Right.
before me. So nothing that you're saying, I'm going like, I had a couple questions off camera. Um, but I have to say that when I went that Thursday, it and it wasn't, and I'll have no problem telling you, it wasn't that, oh my God, your church was spectacular. I mean, the literal Shekinah came crashing through the ceiling, and people, no, it had nothing to do with that. I purposed myself, because you came, uh, which I love your community setup, but you came, I guess you were notified that we had arrived or whatever. You came looking for me and for Bernie, and you were like, hey, I got some seats for you. And we were like, no, no, no.
We'll stay back here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't need all that. It's okay. It's cool. Trust me, we as under the radar as possible. But even in that though, because it came from you to serve, you were like, hey, I just want to honor you guys. Thank you so much for visiting the house of the Lord. Thank you for sharing with us this evening. And it just came out of you. And it's you, it's your wife. I mean, your whole setup of you basically being able to shake hands with your congregants as they're leaving,
Mhm.
and get a name. Oh, welcome. Or that to me, I took note of little things like that. I was like, he gets it. It's not even so much that, oh, he went to this Bible school and he went to Instituto and he did. It's not even about that.
Mhm.
Because if we follow the example of the great discipler, when he called his disciples, he
Mhm.
said 2 words to them:
Yeah.
follow me.
That's it.
So you were credentialed. And if I hold the word of God to be true, based on Colossians 1, you were qualified to share in the inheritance with the saints in light.
Mhm.
So you got your qualification long before you entered into your role as pastor.
Amen.
You're qualified then.
Right.
So now you have this encounter. You get radically transformed. I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's safe to say that you encountered some church hurt.
Some.
You took some lashes as
100%.
as
It was rough, man.
yeah, and it's not anything that, because it was just that ministry. Because unfortunately, and I don't even like to talk about it that much, but
Mhm.
it's a reality, especially in the West.
Mhm.
Church hurt is a very real thing.
Mhm.
And the one thing I like to give credit to is that as long as man is behind the helm, be prepared for some detours, some choppy waters, and some mistakes.
Yeah.
You're gonna get hurt. You're a human being, so not everything is gonna sit right with you.
Mhm.
Offense will rise up. But the one thing I've been learning, and side plug, Pastor Bernie shared this weekend, and one of the things that in his sharing that really stuck out to me. It's like, hey, you're gonna get offended.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than go to the well of offense and then the gripe and the, oh, let me talk to you about this brother or this sister, look what happened to me, or like you were alluding to regarding the Samaritan woman, where it's like, oh, I already know what that person's about, or I already know you. Instead of going there, shifting the perspective and the view of how you see that person or your opinion of the situation or what have you, as long as you choose to, because the greatest one of these is to love. So as long as you choose to love,
Mm-hmm.
in doing that, you're gonna get hurt. You're gonna receive that. And you gotta prepare yourself. Hey, listen, you hurt me. But as Christ forgave me much, I, as your brother,
Mm-hmm.
pastor, husband, insert your title, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to choose to forgive you because I didn't deserve it, but I received forgiveness. I'm extending that same grace that was extended to me, the way Christ received me, I'm going to receive you. And walking in that understanding and from your own testimony or your own telling of your experience, I can connect with that and I can agree with you because um the role of pastor, everybody wants, oh yeah, yeah, oh my God, pastor. They equate it to like the president.
Right.
And then they'll go to, to one of Paul's letters and they'll be like, oh, see, it's one of the ministries as pastor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but guess what? The first one is apostle.
Yeah.
The first one is apostle.
Mm-hmm.
But in our culture, and similar cultures, pastor is quite literally the man, the intermediator before you and God.
Right.
And he's to be treated as such. And if he's not in a foreign vehicle, you're broke and the ministry's in shame and
Right.
in sin. So I get where you're coming from. It's divorcing that understanding.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you feel, and it's not to say that I'm a pastor, but I will say that there's been a paradigm shift, at least in the West,
Mm-hmm.
as of late, where it's like, give the pastor a place of honor, but the understanding is him as a leader, it's not big L, it's little leader.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jesus served.
That's right.
He was the man according to his sorrows. He was the humble servant. First, that's the description of the King of Kings,
Mm-hmm.
the one who will rule and sit on his father's throne.
Yeah.
That's who he is. So walking in that understanding, now 2025, now how long would you say you're not specifically in the building where you guys are at now, but how long would you say you're in ministry now?
Oh, ministry, it's been almost 20 years now, man.
All right. So in your life as ministry,
Mm-hmm.
one, I know you're a man, so there's mistakes throughout those 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying this accusatory, but we're
No, of
human.
course.
But now 20 years in, what have you learned in the 20 years?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I was invited to speak at an event not long ago called NACLA, which is a youth event for young youth leaders and things of that nature. One of the things that I did tell them was that you are going to be hurt, and that's something that you just mentioned. But I think it's so key to understand that you're dealing with people, and not everyone is going to be who you expect them to be. And I think again, it really depends on who you are as a person. I've had to learn this because me personally, I've always I used to more before than now, but I used to have the problem where I used to trust very easily. I used to trust anybody very easily. I would take people for their word very easily. And over the course of my life, I've had to learn that it's not necessarily like that. Being a youth pastor particularly is challenging because today we're competing with a lot of different things. I mean, just the cell phone, you're competing with social media. You can study a sermon, you could study a theme for a week, a month, or whatever the case may be, and you pour your heart out when you preach, and then in a 30-second TikTok video, these kids' theology will change from one moment to another, and now they're questioning you, and now they're challenging you. And thankfully, I've always told my kids to be like the Bereans, like question me, challenge me if you hear something wrong, and so that's why I'm always very, scripture. I always make sure that everything that I say is never opinion based. It's always scripture. But you will be hurt. You will be hurt. There are gonna, I think one of the toughest things for me as a youth pastor is I get kids that come and say, Pastor, I got a full scholarship to college. And man, I get excited, you know? But then in that same day, my next meeting is a 16-year-old girl who's pregnant. You know what I mean? Or a kid who fell into pornography, or a girl who has been vaping, or whatever the case may be. So, it's like an up and down roller coaster of emotions, and I've had to learn that you have to let God be God. You have to let him do what he knows how to do.
He's sovereign.
Yeah, 100%. Which, by the way, the book of Job, which I'm reading now, it's so heartbreaking to see what's going on with Job. His friends accusing him of stuff, and he's like, "No, it's not me, man. I'm a good guy." I'm at a chapter right now where he's saying, like, you guys are just out of your minds, man. I know what I did. I ain't do nothing wrong, and I just want to die already. But that's one of the most difficult things, personally to me, is just understanding. Uh, and that's what I've learned. Not everybody's going to be with you all the time. People go through seasons just like you go through seasons. And you're going to have people during a season of your life that are going to elevate you a little bit, and you're going to help elevate them. But then there's going to come a point where either God has something different for them, or they've decided, I don't want this anymore and I just don't want to be here anymore. And it hurts either way. You know what I'm saying? And it's very heartbreaking for me as a youth pastor to see one of my kids fall. I've lost sleep over it, man. I've cried about it. I've prayed about it. Lord, why? I don't want to do this anymore. I've reached that point too. Like I can't handle so much heartbreak. But then I think of everyone who's breaking God's heart all the time. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, no, you know what? I have to continue doing this because this is what you called me to do, Lord. And if there's something that I have learned in this walk, is that as a shepherd, not everybody's going to be consistent all the time. People are going to fail. People are going to hurt you, but you have to keep pushing forward, man. You just have to.
I think about the story of I don't know if you're familiar with it, Pastor Brunson, Turkish prison for like 2 years,
Uh-huh.
and a part of how he got there was congregants, people he did life with, who he brought to the faith
Mm,
in a foreign land. They were coerced by the local government
right.
to testify falsely against him.
Wow.
This is someone who he lost sleep. These are people he lost sleep over,
Yeah.
poured resources into, discipled them. I mean, these are not like all faces in a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
These are people he was closely knit to.
Right.
And for 2 years, knowing he did nothing wrong, for 2 years in a Turkish prison.
Insane.
And that's there. And you who are here, who are free as a pastor,
Mm-hmm.
you have the dynamics of the emotional, relational dynamic between yourself and your congregants, specifically the young people,
Mm-hmm.
which I can confidently say that the 17-year-old of 2025, I have no understanding of, because their struggles and the things that they're being presented with are very distinct from what I was presented
Very much
with
so.
when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm 37. So I can only imagine what that looks like. And
Mhm.
there's young people today that I deal with, that I speak to, and they'll have questions to me. And I like yourself, I will not give them opinion. I'll be like, whenever there's a Marcos thought, I always preface, hey, this is a Marcos
Yeah,
thought.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I, like yourself, I have to weigh it against the word of God.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it's like, just throw it out. Don't. But if it matches up with here, then this is what it says. And
Mm-hmm.
if I'm saying that this is truth, and if this is the hill I'm willing to die on, that this is the absolute truth, then I have to adhere to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting you're in Job, because I just read a small snippet on one of Job's friends, specifically Elihu.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get a chance, just stay in Elihu for a little bit and see the difference in response. And I literally last Monday, funny enough, I was just like, man, this Elihu guy, and I'm looking at, and he's not an older gentleman either.
Mm-hmm.
He's a younger gentleman, but it's just like, so I won't spoil it for you, but stick around on Elihu for a little bit, and then look at the differences in responses, and yeah. So,
I
but
love it.
back to you though. All right. So, humanly speaking, your pastor Emilio Matos.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you asked me to say that, but that, that's who you are. And you're pouring into these, these youth, this next generation, not only the future of the nation, but the future of the body of Christ. This
Mm-hmm.
is what you and Joyce are doing, you're serving in.
Yeah.
All right. So here's my question to you, though. So you're here, you've done this for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've only done this for 4 years, and I'll confess to you that I'm like, I want to quit. And then he's like, no, come on, you got this. My grace is sufficient. Let's go. Come on. I joke with people the poem of the footsteps in the sand.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, mine is more like it's like his footsteps, and then there's like this like rake. And he's like dragging me. I'm like, I don't
yeah.
want to do this anymore. I don't want it. My family, my close friends, they'll say to me like, Marcos, you are a man after God's heart, but you're also the man that exacerbates the Lord to the point where he either meets you in a crowded place or a random stranger, and it's like the word of the Lord, and then my heart is cut to the core.
Yeah.
It's like that whole road to Emmaus moment. Like, did your hearts not burn? And it's just like I'm like, all right, I get it. This is who I am. I get it, and that's who you are.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're 20 years in.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It hit me a little bit because I'm remembering Kid Emilio.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what would you say aside from the car accident where you said it, you turned on where it's like, hey, I want to take this more serious.
Mm.
I really want to unpack and get to know this God who clearly just spared my life.
Mm-hmm.
From that moment forward, 20 years ministry. What would be a marking moment more recently that you can point to, putting this aside, that you can say, the Lord literally called me for such a time as this?
Mm-hmm.
If you can't expand on that, that's great. But is there something, car accident aside,
Yeah, yeah.
and all that you encountered with the previous ministry, that you can say, for such a time as this,
Mm-hmm.
I have no regrets. I'm here because of this.
Okay, so being part of that ministry, I learned one way of doing things. I also learned what not to do. I think that was important for me. I was sent away to Honduras as a missionary, and I lived over there for
Remember
almost
that?
a year. I remember telling you that I
Mhm.
was leaving, or I think I was over there talking to you, like through Facebook or something like that, or Skype or
No,
something.
I know we spoke before you're leaving,
Mm-hmm.
and then we kept in contact
Yeah, yeah,
sparingly while you were
yeah. 'Cause
there.
I think we were
And
still
I
part
remember
of.
when you came back.
Yeah, yeah. I think we were still part of the same fantasy football league, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, probably.
But uh, being over there and seeing the way people served the Lord with no reservation, especially in the village that we used to work in, people did not care. Here, if their air conditioner doesn't work, they're not going to church. If it's raining a little bit, they're not going to go to church. If it's snowing, they're already planning what they're going to do at home even before anything. Over there, it didn't matter what happened. There was monsoon season over there, and those people would walk barefoot to church. Um, I can say that there were different parts of my life that did it for me. One of them in Honduras was seeing the passion with which people serve the Lord without reservation. We would work, for example, in Tegucigalpa, which is the capital. People of the city. People had regular jobs there, mechanics, factory workers, and people would, give offerings to the Lord because of what they earned that way. When and we would pray, Lord, open doors, nuevos empleos, aumento de salario, Señor, bendice a tu pueblo. We would pray that way in the city. In the village, it was, Lord, let it rain. Father, we need rain because these cows need the grass to grow so that they could eat. And people would tithe and they would offer eggs and vegetables, and it's like, wow, like the different perspectives just changed everything, man. We decided that we weren't that we were done there, and we came here, and I got to meet a pastor that really helped us because in the midst of all the pain that we had gone through and everything new that we had learned, um, and I'm gonna shout him out right now, Pastor Pablo Pizarro of Temple Rock Community Church in Newark, New Jersey. Man, we got to his church broken, and he was able to help us and teach us that God is love. Teach us, he was able to remind me what servanthood is, even at the level of the pastorate. I remember his wife, First Lady Pastor Erica Bizarro. We were gonna meet, and she grabbed a chair for me. I thought that was weird because I was so used to the pastor doesn't have to do that. The pastor doesn't have to hold the chair. The pastor doesn't. But I saw her do that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no, give me that. And my pastor at the time was like, what's wrong with this kid, But he helped me and he trained me, and that, you know, in terms of what we're doing today and a lot of what we're doing today, the way he trained me for the 7 years that I was with him really helped me, man, because he was able to mold us in different ministries. We served with the children for a year or two. You guys are good here. You guys, oh yeah, we love serving. Okay, you're done here then. Now you guys are going to serve with the youth. Well, but we love the kids. Doesn't matter. You're going to serve with the youth now. We served with the youth for about a year and a half. How do you guys feel? Oh man, this is awesome, Pastor. I got so many ideas. Oh really? Well, pass that on to the next youth leader because now you're going to be serving with the men. It's like, what are you talking about? And he trained us that way to the point where me and my wife were able to learn every aspect of ministry in such a servant way. We even used to work with the community, which he still does, giving out food, helping people, preaching in the streets, praying over people, praying over businesses. My gosh. And I would say that those things have a lot to do with who I am today, becoming a father. That changed my whole perspective on life. You know, um, Truly loving what I do for the Lord, not for any sort of benefit, but just because you love to do it, like what they say, if you love what you do, you'll never work another day of your life. And I truly feel that way, man. That's why I left my secular job to do this full time because to me, God has been able to provide in every area of our life. It's been a beautiful thing. And I will tell you, balance is really key. Not everything is ministry. Sometimes you need your me time, so to speak. You need to spend time with your kids. And I can tell you honestly, for me, baseball has been a blessing, and so to speak. That's my me thing. And I'm a card collector actually, so that's something that I actually wanted to present to you even during your show. I actually wanted to bring you this gift and show you. I don't know exactly how much time we have left, but is it a lot or is it a
No,
little
no,
bit?
go ahead, go ahead.
I actually brought you a whole bunch of cards.
Okay.
Most of these are common rookies, and I actually want to go through them one by one right now on the show, which is okay. Is that okay?
Like each one of those?
Each one of them right now.
All right, you got
Well,
like 80 there.
yeah,
So.
no, it's not 80. It's 70 maybe. But anyway, so look, I want you to take a look at them. That's a Luis Hill rookie card right there. He's our Cy Young winner this year. Not Cy Young, rookie of the year winner. Pitcher for the Yankees.
Mhm.
You got Paul Skeens. That's a rookie card right there too. He's the National League
Mhm.
rookie of the year. You got a Jackson Holiday rookie card
Nice.
right there. What you know about that? Look at that. Junior Caminero, you know who that kid is?
Absolutely.
That's a rookie card right there. All right. There's a Jason Dominguez, our new left fielder. That's a rookie card.
The Martian.
All right. To me, pound for pound, this kid is probably the best rookie. Jackson Churio. He's a Venezuelan. Awesome player. That's a rookie card. You got Jackson Merrill, who a lot of people argue should have been the rookie of the year for the National League over Skeens, but that's okay. All right. Our new catcher, hopefully our next catcher for the 15 years that people usually spend in the MLB. That's his rookie card. I brought you a Yoshinobu Yamamoto rookie card as well. All right. Very, very good stud pitcher for the Dodgers. Ellie De La Cruz, right? Which, of course, Dominicano.
I think he's getting selected for the
For the Dominican team.
yeah,
Absolutely.
for WBC.
Yeah. Evan Carter, which is one of my favorite rookies right now, too. That's his rookie card. Well, he's not a rookie anymore, but that's his rookie. Shota Imanaga, which is another awesome pitcher.
Hey, we can't talk in tongues without translation.
Very good. Wyatt Langford, one of my favorite rookies, too. So those are all 2024 rookies, by the way, right? Then Grayson Rodriguez is a pitcher for the Baltimore Orioles. That's his rookie. Those are all rookie cards, by the way.
Cool.
That is his. He's one of my favorite pitchers. I think he's going to do good. If you notice, a lot of people they want people to be successful right away. It doesn't always work that way. Like you look at the careers of like Greg Maddux and like Nolan Ryan. Their first 4 years weren't really that spectacular. And then all of a sudden, boom, Nolan Ryan gets,
Something clicked.
300 strikeouts a year for the rest of his life, Colton Cowser, which was the rookie of the year before, if I'm not mistaken. Well, it was Gunnar Henderson, I think, and then it was him before. Maybe I don't remember exactly, but here's a Josh Young rookie. I love him. He's third baseman for the Texas Rangers. That's a rookie card.
Is
I
he
got
related to Eric?
yeah, Eric Young.
Yeah.
No, that's Michael Harris. That's his rookie card, which I love that player. Riley Green is he was the best player on the Detroit Tigers this year, and I really hope that his career, goes well. This is Corbin Carroll, which he was the
Yes.
rookie of the year for the National
Correct.
League. Our boy Anthony Volpe, the shortstop for the Yankees, that's his
Sir.
rookie.
Former Somerset Patriot.
Yes. Luis Robert, he is one of my favorite players. He's been okay for these past 4 years, but I'm hoping that he's one of those guys that clicks,
He might need a change of scenery.
Right. So those are all the common, not common, but the current players, and little Tariq Skubal action there. That's his rookie card.
And he just
He just
got
won the
his-
Cy Young Award. So, right. So those are all the current players now. Right. So then I went back a few years, and this is Hanley Ramirez's rookie card right here.
The fish.
Hanley Ramirez was a beast for like a good 6 years. There was no shortstop like him. He had like every category. He was just the best.
No, I mean, you think the weight in his name, he got traded for Josh Beckett. who
Correct.
Arguably at the time was one of the greatest pitchers.
Exactly. All right. Here's a little thing. That guy, A-Rod. That's his rookie card right there, or one of many. Obviously, as time passes by, there's, the card game has changed drastically, and I'm bringing this onto your show because I think part of who I am too has a lot to do with baseball, and I love it, and it's something that kind of disconnects me, whenever I'm like really overwhelmed by, the things of ministry,
It's your escape, or
It's
it's
where
you unplug.
I go downstairs to my to my basement, and I just look at my cards, and it's like, this is one of my favorites right here. That's the Derek Jeter rookie.
Okay, Mr. Sanderson.
Yes, Derek Sanderson Jeter from Pequannock, New Jersey. And then I don't know if you recall, I texted you the other day asking you who your favorite baseball player was, and you told me Manny Ramirez.
Yeah.
So I brought you 3 Manny Ramirez rookies. All right, that is one of them right there, which I love that one. Okay.
Oh, such a good one.
Yeah, that's a beautiful card right there. Then there's this one. This is also Manny Ramirez rookie, but that was even before. Like if you see, he's wearing his minor league, whatchamacallit
The
there.
jersey, his uniform.
Yeah.
minor league.
Now this one is one of the most hilarious cards I've ever seen, but at the same time the coolest. So Manny was told that he was gonna go. He was gonna go to a photo shoot for baseball, and he decides to go to the mall
No.
and get himself this green striped shirt. And that's the pictures that he took. This is a Bowman rookie card, Manny Ramirez. So I think that's an awesome card just because of what it has.
Oh yeah.
All right. So little Pedro Martinez rookie right there.
Okay.
He's looking like one of the members of NWA with the Jerry curl
Yeah.
and the LA hat. All right. We got Jim Thome rookie.
Another Cleveland Indian.
Yeah. Cleveland Indian, Hall of Famer. Kenny Lofton, who was
Man played for every team.
Yeah, beast player during our era, which, by the way, if you look at his statistics compared to Ichiro's statistics, besides hits and batting average, offensively, he doesn't compare, man. He had every category better than Ichiro, which is insane, But here is probably the best catcher of all time, Ivan Rodriguez, Pudge Rodriguez's rookie card right there.
Nice.
Yeah. Then you got some guys like a John Olerud. Do you remember John Olerud?
Yeah,
That's
I
his
know.
rookie card.
Yeah, my man had to wear a helmet all the time.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
kept getting whacked in the head.
Yep. This is a Larry Walker. I pulled a lot of these cards, by the way. These are things that I've opened because, again, I buy packs from back in the day. I pulled a lot of these. I bought a couple of them, but for the most part, I pulled almost all of these. I love this one. This is a guy who I think should be in the Hall of Fame. That's Albert Bell. It says Joey Bell there.
Yeah.
That's his rookie card, which I think is really cool. This is another one. This is a Jim Abbott. You remember him?
Yeah, I remember Jim Abbott.
The one-armed phenom.
Yeah.
That's his rookie. All right.
I actually have a Jim Abbott card. At home.
Yeah, that's a Kurt Schilling rookie right there.
Nice.
All right. I'm almost done, I promise. Frank Thomas, the big unit. That's his rookie card right there, which I think is awesome.
Well, you could tell it's his rookie card. It's before he was getting that big money eating good.
Yeah, it says he's wearing the Auburn jersey, by the way.
Yeah.
And There's a card that's that same card, but it's a no name. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's the error card that there's no name on it. That one can be worth up to 6 figures, which is amazing. But a lot of these cards are in great shape. So if you get them graded, then that's the way the card game works. You get them graded. A lot of these cards can be worth thousands of dollars, and obviously it also depends on who's willing to buy them. But hopefully you just keep these for your collection. Juan Gan, which one of my favorite players. That dude was a walking
Oh no, he was
RBI machine.
Yeah, my man, and he showed up to play every day.
Yeah, there's a Burn, baby,
baby,
burn.
burn.
That's his rookie card.
Nice.
House rookie. And then I think this is one of the coolest cards. Oh, I actually left the price in the back of that one. That's Deion Sanders rookie when he got drafted by the New York Yankees. All right.
Is that this is not when he pushed Carver, right?
When he pushed.
Because wasn't there one where he was playing and he pushed like Tim Carver, the announcer?
Oh, yeah. No, but that's not it, though.
Okay.
No. So this is a 1986 Bo Jackson rookie card.
I have a bunch of Bo Nose cards.
Oh, yeah?
I have a bunch.
No
of
way.
Yeah,
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, so then
I have a bunch of Bo Nose. I got Bo Nose. I got a bunch of Danny Tartable.
So here's another one. There's another Bo Nose for your collection then.
Oh, okay.
Do you have that one or no?
No, not this one.
Okay,
but I have like something like this.
Yeah. So that to me, that's my favorite card of his. Where he's wearing the shoulder pads and whatnot. Yeah. I just decided to give you that one just because it's Robin Ventura and that's his rookie card.
Mahalo.
Yeah. So this is a Roberto Alomar. That's like a sophomore. That's a second-year card.
Okay.
But again, the worth is something else. This is Ken Griffey Jr.'s sophomore, so to speak, but it's a Gold Cup rookie, so it's considered almost like a rookie card too. But this is his Don Russ. That's Ken Griffey Jr.'s Don Russ rookie card right there.
Nice.
Yeah. So those are all really dope cards. And then I got a couple. So right there, those two are Shohei Ohtani's. Ohtani cards are always good to own because this kid, if he continues playing the way he is, he's just going to be the best player of all time. You know what I'm saying? So it's always good to own those cards. All right. This is Aaron Judge's card from this year. So that is his MVP card, which is of good value as well. All right. And then I'm going to give you 4 cards that are a little bit different. This is a early 1980s Miguel Diloné. Miguel Diloné is considered the best Dominican League player of all time. He played in the majors for many years, and he so happens to be my grandmother's cousin.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. So I thought it was pretty cool. When my mother one day is telling me, sí, mira, y nosotros tenemos un hombre que jugaba en la mayor, que se llama Miguel Diloné. I'm like, for real? He's our family. All right. So you are a Jets fan. So
Light and momentary reflections.
Here's a Sauce Gardner rookie card.
Okay. Didn't do much this year.
This is a Mark Jackson card. Point guard for the New York Knicks. But that is the Mark Jackson card. On the card to his right are the Menendez brothers. Yep. All right. And just for laughs, I brought you a Chuck Norris card because I pulled that one. And that one beats every other card. If you're ever playing Uno, if you're ever playing,
Chuck
poker,
Norris.
You pull that out and you win every time, no matter what the game is.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope I start a trend where people bring Marcos gifts every time they come onto the show.
Yes, make all checks payable. I'm just kidding. So that being said, though, we've had a good time, really relaxed conversation. But our final thought.
Yeah.
I heard who you are.
Yeah.
I heard how you came to the faith.
Yeah.
I'm hearing what you're doing in the faith and what's keeping you going and so forth.
Yeah.
To close, though, if you could say anything at this point to your former self,
yeah,
what would it be?
Invest in Amazon. No, I'm just playing.
And look right there and let them know.
To Emilio. I'm speaking to Emilio.
Your former self.
What I could say to...
Or anyone you may think that, your background, your struggle, what would you say?
Just honestly count your blessings, embrace the little things, all the little things that God allows you to experience, all the positive things, even if it's something that seems like it's not huge, because a lot of people love to celebrate the big victories. But enjoy the little victories too, man. Many times those small victories are the ones that you kind of talk about the most. Whether, a cute little laugh that happened, amongst your family, a small joke, those inside jokes, right? Even when people get together for something major, for a graduation or a celebration or a new business, people, when they're having dinner in the celebration, will talk about the inside jokes. Embrace the little things and understand that everything that God allows in your life is going to form you and shape you into who you're going to become. Trust in Him with all of your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding, and understand that God is indeed in control of everything.
All right. Well said. Thank you so much.
My man.
I appreciate everything. Thank you for your time. My love to your family. And Lord willing, this will not be the last conversation. No, we may
Amen.
have you for round two.
Yeah, I love
Appreciate it,
it.
brother.
Love you, my man.
Take care, man. Thank you so much for watching or listening. I pray that that episode blessed you. If you enjoyed that, please tune in every month as we'll have a new voice and a new episode. Until next time, God bless.